gotta put it sold out, but I want to say how much I appreciate your fierce, staunch defending of democracy. It really means so much. Last question: what stocks should I buy, Nancy? You're the greatest options trader of all time. I just want to know what stocks I should buy.
It's a crazy world, crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you.
All right, people, it is September 9th, 2024. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. We are live streaming on Rumble, on YouTube, and on Locals. If you'd like to join us for a post-game show, rubinreport.locals.com. And we have a jam-packed Monday show for you, all to the backdrop of tomorrow, which is the first presidential debate. It will be Donald Trump, the orange man, running against the woman that they installed after the coup, Kamala Harris, but we'll focus more on that tomorrow. We also will be doing a live debate show. We'll have some more info on that during tomorrow's live stream. But today I want to talk about the thing that, as I described to Sage Steele last week when I came back on the grid, was to me the best thing that happened during all of August, which was the widening of the tent. The RFK dropping out supporting Trump, the Tulsi coming on in. As we've talked about, guys like Rogan, as you know, and Elon Musk, and a whole bunch more. So you see the tent on the right side of things, on the Republican side of things, widening. And then we're seeing a lot of weirdness on the left side, which shouldn't surprise anybody, because this intersectional combination of people with competing interests really doesn't make sense. It's all people who just want power, but what they purport to care about, say a Bernie versus a Kamala, or now a Dick Cheney who is voting for Kamala Harris. These people all should actually, and I think subtly, do hate each other, but they're trying to create an alliance. We'll combine that with people eating cats and ducks and stealing gooses. Is it goose or geese on the street? And a whole bunch more. And the point is, I don't know, maybe the momentum actually is shifting. I don't know. So I want to start with a clip from a day or two ago on my friend Megyn Kelly's show. She had, I don't even know how to describe this guy. You know, I show a lot of investors and a lot of tech people and this billionaire class that has become very politically relevant. Most of them usually were lefties, and now they're kind of waking up in their own way. There's a guy by the name of Naval Ravikant who went on Megyn Kelly's show. He is a massive investor. This guy is thought of as sort of the guru of investors. Like if he invests in something, the rest of the investor class want to get in on it. I don't know much about his politics, but I think he's mostly kind of old school liberal. You'd never think of him as sort of a traditional conservative or Republican, but he is waking up too, and there's reasons for it that are sort of outside strict, I think this on abortion or this on foreign policy, as opposed to this endless, ever-growing deep state government that seems to be coming after everybody. He got into that with Megyn Kelly.
You know, honestly, it was the lawfare that kind of brought me off the sidelines. It's really disgusting behavior, because this is how you descend into a complete banana republic with military coups and military rule. The moment you can start weaponizing the law against your enemies selectively, that's the beginning of the end. There was a famous dictator who said something like, you know, for my friends, anything, for my enemies, the law. Right. And what he meant by that is once you're in charge and you get to dictate who the law applies to, you're in a very slippery slope. And slippery slopes are real, by the way, as we know. These are elected offices that are, that either are in territory where the voters are really favorable to us, or they're really cheap to run because there's no organized opposition. So let's just organize and take over prosecution. That's what happened in San Francisco. If you want the case against Kamala Harris, it's the fact that she was DA at San Francisco, and San Francisco is a mess. And in fact, afterwards, she advocated for George Gascon, who's the guy who's destroying LA. Through basically not prosecuting criminals and going after business owners. So this selective prosecution thing is a disaster. These guys start playing with going after their political enemies when Alvin Bragg runs on the explicit campaign to take down Trump. And then they go hunting through and looking for anything and drumming up any charge and go after him in the most favorable juries in the most favorable part of the country, and then just control the evidence and control the narrative, that is the beginning of the end. And the people who in Silicon Valley and the donors who are out there supporting this lawfare, they're dead to me. I mean, these people are destroying the ground on which they stand. Do they think they won't be next? When you destroy the institutions of fairness and merit, yeah, eventually you're the ones who get thrown up against the wall. But that's what it does. It creates this revenge fantasy, right? Now you want to get
that's
back
the only
at
way
them.
they're going to learn.
It's going to be a sad state of affairs.
Okay, so you can see why he's sort of a guru in the investing world. And again, I don't know his specific politics, but what he's talking about there is really the stuff that is waking up so many people: selective prosecutions, going after political enemies, these hack operatives like Alvin Bragg in New York, basically like, we will find the crime, don't worry about it. Certain blue jurisdictions where they can do all of these things. Like, we're all getting this, and that is the thing that is waking up more and more people to the problem. And that really, in some ways, it's kind of the beauty of what Trump created, either intentionally or not, right? I think Trump would have preferred, probably, in his heart of heart, not to be going through all of this and just be running on the issues and some of the just like the general stuff that he does with his personality. But by being who he is and the reaction to him, it has woken up people all over the place that should have nothing to do with each other through a traditional political lens. And then, of course, he talks about then how they control the narrative. So they do all these things with lawfare and everything else, and then they have their political hacks on CNN and MSNBC and their leaks to the New York Times and Washington Post, and that then controls the narrative. But people are waking up to that as well. So as we talk about this sort of ever-widening thing and people suddenly being like, boy, the people that I used to like kind of maybe are the bad guys, and the guys that I used to think were the bad guys maybe are the good guys. Alan Dershowitz, legendary Harvard law professor and legal scholar Alan Dershowitz, who has been a lifelong Democrat, and even in these last 5 years where a guy like me has left the left, and I've had him on the show where he's talked about why it's worth fighting to save the Democrat Party. Well, finally, last week, Alan Dershowitz, for the first time in his life, has announced he is leaving the Democrat Party.
We're speaking with Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Avi Dershowitz. So are you ready to leave the Democratic Party?
Democratic Party. I am no longer a Democrat. I am an independent. I'll decide who to vote for at the last minute based on totality of the circumstances. I want to see how they deal with Iran. I want to see how they deal if Iran attacks the United States. I want to encourage the current administration to support Israel. So I'm not revealing my vote until, maybe November 1st. Great to hear all the information, all the evidence, but I am no longer a member of the Democratic Party.
When did you resign the Democratic Party?
Well, gradually over time. I think a lot of things pushed me in that direction. Kamala Harris's failure to comply with her constitutional obligation to preside over the Senate and the House joint sessions for Netanyahu pushed me a lot over that. And what Joe Biden said pushed me over that. But I think the thing that really pushed me is how the Democrats conducted their convention. I cannot be associated with a party that features as its speakers AOC, Sharpton, Liz Warren, and Bernie Sanders. That's not my.
All right, as I always say, Bruce Willis in Die Hard, welcome to the party, pal. So look, he finally got there. He had his reasons that he is finally there. But the point is, he is there. Now, he says he's now an independent, and obviously that's just fine. And at the last minute, he'll decide who to vote for. But I think it is pretty clear who he will vote for. By the way, that kind of echoes back to last week when we showed you that video of Brett Weinstein on Joe Rogan, basically saying at the last minute, I'll make a decision. And again, it's like, okay, guys, we'll soft pedal you there, but it is clear, right? It is clear. And you just have to remember with a guy like Alan Dershowitz, throughout his legal career, has defended all sorts of people he did not agree with politically, including Donald Trump, because he believes in the Constitution, right? He is a legal scholar. There's very few people outside of like the most hatery haters who think that the guy doesn't know what he's talking about as it comes to the Constitution. And he now realized there is one party that is the party of law, and there's one party that is the party of all the kind of evilness that the next hour is going to be about. But other people are waking up too, okay? It's not just Naval, tech investor from San Francisco, and it's not just, East Coast lawyer Alan Dershowitz. Also, there has now been a signal sent to the system that celebrities are allowed to say that they kind of like Trump too. And The Rock, yes, The Rock himself was doing some stuff with Patrick Bet-David at a big conference over the weekend, and here he is talking about his love for Trump.
Trump used to come watch me wrestle all the time, Madison Square Garden. It was great. First time I saw him, though, he said, "Let me see the eyebrows." Got it, there it is. That's cool. So he was a fan. He watched you as a fan. Oh, he was. Yes. Yeah. That's cool. He used to come to Madison Square Garden all the time. Big spoilers. Whether you love Donald, you don't love Donald, it doesn't matter. Tried to assassinate him. There's no room for that. And yes, despite it being who we were in that moment, I still believe in my core that is not who we are as a country. So him standing up in that moment, you wanted to see that.
Okay, so look, he's not flat out saying I'm voting for the guy. I think he has said that he regrets fundraising and supporting Joe Biden last time around, but he is not flat out saying I'm a Trump supporter, MAGA, or anything else. But it's just showing culturally, oh, Donald Trump's not this evil guy. Oh, he used to go to wrestling matches at Madison Square Garden. It's just showing there's an easing of the thing that was radioactive, that none of us could touch, that we were told was the worst, most racist thing ever. It's becoming a little less radioactive. And now let's go even further than that. I don't know that in the history of news shows anyone's ever gone from The Rock to Elton John, but let's do just that because now Elton John has come out and said he was doing this interview. The interviewer clearly was trying to set him up to go after Trump, and watch what happened.
I know that you're not a supporter of Donald Trump's. He loves your music. How did it feel when he took the lyrics to Rocket Man and he used it as a nickname for Kim Jong-un, and then he gave Kim Jong-un
I laughed. I thought it was brilliant. I just thought, good on you, Donald. I'm the Rocket Man, yeah. Donald's always been a fan of mine, and he's been to my concerts many, many times. So, I've always been friendly towards him, and I thank him for his support. Yeah, when he did that, I just thought it was hilarious. It made me laugh.
So again, he's not saying he's voting for him. You don't get the indication that he is. But the interviewer is clearly trying to get him to be like, oh, he used Rocket Man. That's your favorite, your famous song. And that's what he's calling Kim Jong-un and blah, blah, blah. Go after him. And he doesn't, because most of us don't want to live in this hyper polarized, twisted place, I would say, that we are in right now. So what really is happening here? Well, okay, I always talk about the widening of what's going on the right, but what really is going on, what really is causing it, is that the Democrat Party is no longer the party of classical liberalism. It is no longer the party of live and let live, right? They are the party, I would say, of classical fascism and neoconservatism. And if you need a tell, if you don't trust me on that, well, now they're joining forces with Dick Cheney. We'll get to that on the other side. But first, let me tell you about Gravity Defier. Guys, G-Defy shoes are absolutely the best choice for walking, running, and standing. If you're someone who loves being active or you simply spend a lot of time on your feet, these are the shoes for you. After balling all these years, I can confirm that G-Defy shoes are the best footwear I have used on the court. Every G-Defy contains patented VersoShock technology, which aligns with your body, absorbs harmful shock from the ground up, provides energy return, giving you the boost you deserve to walk like a champ. All of their shoes come with 2 free orthotics. G-Defy will support your active lifestyle, keeping you comfortable and free from discomfort. Go to gdefy.com and use code Rubin30 for an exclusive $30 off 130 or more. That's gdefy.com. Use code Rubin30 for $30 off 130 or more. And now back to me. So, as I said, there is a massive realignment happening. You guys all get the widening of the tent. That's all the good news. But now there's something happening on the Democrat side because they have gone so bananas. They have the Cheneys in their pocket. Yes, Liz Cheney, who I suppose was a Republican, daughter of Dick Cheney, who was, I guess, a Republican, but was always put on all the TV shows to, get her cookie and say how horrible Trump was and insurrection, this and that, and be pat on the head, and then got blown out in her congressional election, so she's no longer in government. Here she is being interviewed over the weekend, and it's very exciting. Dick Cheney will now be voting for Kamala Harris.
We have officially made some news here. Let's get greedy. Dick Cheney, your father, a beloved figure among Democrats for many, many years. Do you, if you know who he will be supporting or who he'll be voting for, do you care to share with us who he might be voting for?
Dick Cheney will be voting for Kamala Harris.
Okay, now, Dick Cheney, a man we were always told is Darth Vader, is the most evil person who is the architect of the Iraq War, and he killed so many Iraqis and got us into all these military adventures, and he's part of Halliburton and evil, and, just like, he was like more, for those of you that remember of a certain age, during the George W. Bush administration, which everyone hated George W. Bush, he was secondary in hate only to Dick Cheney. But now you have an audience of Democrats wildly applauding that the man they used to hate, number one, I'm telling you, he was hated more than the president himself because everyone knew he was sort of the architect of everything George W. Bush was doing. Now they're applauding that he is on their side. It is completely insane and yet completely obvious. Sahil Kapoor on Twitter had this. I thought this was just perfect. Wish I could go back to 2004 and tell everyone this is how the Democrat Party's coalition would look like in 20 years. And there you have, I would say, Islamist Hamas caucus member Ilhan Omar, and then the architect of the Iraq War, who they all were saying was a Nazi and was evil, a man who carpet bombs Arab countries and does it while sitting on the board of a defense contractor, Halliburton, and all of that stuff. And now, because all that alliance cares about really is power, they will just take anybody. So a group of Democrats are applauding Liz Cheney, who was quote unquote a Republican, because she's saying her father, who was the most evil Republican in their world, is now voting for Kamala Harris. So do you get who maybe is the party of war now? Do we have any other videos with evidence of people who used to say horrible things about Dick Cheney now saying good things about Dick Cheney? Do we have one? Do you have an old white guy who sounds like a Muppet, a socialist? You have one of those and we could play that now? Okay.
The lies, the distortions of intelligence that came from Dick Cheney, came from Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of Defense, that came from the entire Bush administration. And they were saying, if we do not invade Iraq, if we don't get rid of Saddam Hussein, who was in fact a very bad guy, a murdering thug, but if we don't invade them, they will develop nuclear weapons or chemical weapons, which could be a disaster and hurt us in the United States. That was a lie. And as a result of those lies, the United States invaded Iraq. 4,500 brave men and women died from America, died in that war. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis were killed.
Well, Kristen, what I think Dick and Liz Cheney are saying is that in this existential moment in American history, it's not just issues. Cheney and I agree on nothing, no issues. But what we do believe in is that the United States should retain its democratic foundations. And it's not just Cheney. I think there is a significant number of Republicans who say, well, I may not agree with the vice president on this issue or that issue, but I cannot support somebody who's a pathological liar, somebody who fomented a insurrection to overthrow the election return. So I applaud the Cheneys for their courage in defending democracy.
Think about really what a sad old pathetic windbag Bernie is. Bernie knows that the Democrats stole the election from him the first time, right? When he had the popular momentum and they handed it to Hillary. And then he has sat there and largely become irrelevant, right? Because his identity politics thing doesn't help him. So he's just becoming like the old socialist, and eventually they'll eat him because all revolutions do. But there you have him basically saying Dick Cheney got us into these wars, which is true. And they basically lied us into those wars, right? Colin Powell testifying that there were these uranium rods or whatever that was way back when that got us into the war, and David Frum writing that Axis of Evil speech post 9/11 and all of that. That is all true. And the Iraq war turned into an abject disaster. And I don't even think we fully know how many Iraqis were killed in the Iraq war. Something like 400,000, right? So we see all that. But now what he's saying is, I see a chance to attain power again. So I will ally with the people that I thought were the most evil. And it is an utter lie that he thinks that Donald Trump is the one coming for democracy. What rings more true to you? That Donald Trump is the one coming for democracy and trying to destroy all the institutions, or the video that we started this show with, where Naval, who again is not a Republican, and largely apolitical, as far as I know, is giving you factual information about how they're weaponizing the justice system and how they launder the lies through the system. Which one is true? I expect you know. But Bernie, it's funny how it ends for an old socialist. He will end up shilling for anyone that will allow him to retain power, because that's all the left really wants. And here he is doing just that for Kamala.
Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
Oh, isn't that interesting? So does she have these beliefs? Now, I happen to believe these people when they say what they want, when they say what they believe in. So we've shown you that clip a couple times from the last election, the Democratic primary, when they said, how many of you are for Medicare for all? And basically all of them raise their hands. And then they say, how many of you are for banning private insurance? And I think it was only Kamala and Bernie that were actually for that, meaning imagine telling someone, no, you cannot buy extra insurance, putting aside what your thoughts are for Medicare for all, like utterly psychotic. But what he's saying is she's selling out just like I'm selling out right now. We are all a bunch of sellouts because what do we really care about? We care about power. Now, we showed you a video last week of this guy, Scott Jennings, on CNN. He's actually a sane person on CNN. It's weird and refreshing. But every now and again, they have to show someone ballpark sane on there. Otherwise, it's just like a complete and obvious clown show. Here he is describing the just complete ridiculousness of the Democrats now applauding a guy like Dick Cheney.
Democrats have called Dick Cheney a war criminal for 20 years. And now all of a sudden, they're clapping like seals to get his endorsement. This does not strike me as people who are interested in listening to your conservative viewpoints. They are hungry for power. They will take Dick Cheney's endorsement today.
Of course. And that literally, it's just as easy as that. You don't have to analyze it beyond that. RFK saw that clip, and RFK Jr., and he had a great tweet. I thought this was perfect. Liberals, take note. If you support Kamala Harris, you are now on the same side of Dick Cheney. So I want everyone, for just a moment, I want you to think about your aunt who's, let's say, 50 to 70, or your cousin, or somebody, your friend or your brother-in-law who has been a lifelong Democrat. And I want you to ask them, I dare you to do it. I know you don't want to talk politics with these people because they usually yell at you and kick you out of their house. But I want everyone to ask the relative that they know who was the Democrat back in 2004, what did you used to think about Dick Cheney? And then I want you to have them explain how they think it is now good that he is supporting Kamala Harris. It is all so freaking obvious if you just take a breath and are brave enough to see what's going on here. So Democrats, I would say largely like Dick Cheney used to be, are sort of tyrannical warlords. They want power. And how do they intend on attaining power? Well, they're going to try to shut you up and take your guns. We'll get to that in just a moment, but let me tell you about Hillsdale College. Guys, time is our most precious commodity, And I've heard from so many of my listeners who have asked for my advice about how they can spend it wisely to improve themselves and the people around them. That's why I'm so excited that Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subjects. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church with Hillsdale College's online courses, all available for free. Yeah, absolutely free. I recommend you sign up for American Citizenship and Its Decline with Victor Davis Hanson. In this 8-lecture course, Dr. Hanson explores the history of citizenship in the West and the threats it faces today. Threats like the erosion of the middle class, the disappearance of our borders, the growth of an unaccountable deep state, and the rise of globalist organizations. The course is self-paced so that you can start whenever and wherever. Start your free course, American Citizenship and Its Decline with Victor Davis Hanson today. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/Dave to start. It's free and easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/Dave to start. And now back to me. All right, we've shown you a couple CNN clips, and as I said, occasionally they throw on a sane person. Otherwise, I might have to call them the televised mental institution known as CNN. So you know what I have for you right now? Yes, it's MSNBC. Here is a guest. His name is Roger McNamee, and he wants to prosecute Elon Musk because Elon's into free speech, and we can't have you people talking about things we don't want you talking about.
He actually controls the algorithms. People have said ever since Elon Musk has taken over, certain people's accounts don't get amplified, other things do. This is a guy who said he wanted to own X to make it a town square, to make it a public square where voices were not squelched. Now it's being used for exactly the things you wrote a book about that almost wrecked some of our elections.
So the critical element in thinking about Elon Musk is, like any American, he has a right to his own opinion and he has a right to express his opinion. However, that right is not unlimited, and he is under some special limitations that wouldn't apply to normal people because his companies, specifically Starlink and SpaceX, are government contractors. And as such, he has obligations to the government that would, for any normal person, and should for him, require him to moderate his speech in the interest of national security. So what you have is somebody who runs really strategic defense and aerospace projects for the federal government who's actively undermining the government, which is paying him. And somewhere in there is a legal case that needs to be prosecuted.
These people are all so evil. Again, I would only just reference you back to the Naval clip that we played up top when they start using lawfare. And that's what these people on MSNBC are setting the ground for. They want Elon to be sued because he's allowing people to speak freely on Twitter. You know, and it's so funny, Ali Velshi, by the way, was the guy that during our 2020 Summer of Love, remember that when the Democrats and Antifa were burning down cities and BLM was burning down cities? He's the one that said, mostly peaceful protests as buildings were exploding behind him, right? But there, it's so interesting because he starts the segment by saying, Elon Musk controls the algorithms and can push what people see and don't see. Isn't it interesting that nobody cared about that before Elon Musk got there? Why didn't they care that child porn was on Twitter before Elon Musk got there? He's the one doing something about it. Why didn't they care that there was shadow banning going on before Elon Musk got there? But now he gets there, he says, oh, I'd like more people to be able to be seen. I want to actually eliminate the shadow banning and see what's going on with this algorithm. And now that's very upsetting to these people, right? Because all they want to do is control you. And MSNBC is only set up as a place to launder the lies of how they can control you, because they will convince you that your own right to free speech and your own ability to defend yourself and your family, that those are somehow bad things. Now let's flash back 5 years, because if you think it's sort of just, oh, well, it's just some idiot on MSNBC and some moronic law professor who's writing a book that want to stop us from being able to speak and that want to control all the social media platforms. Actually, Kamala Harris, 2019, in her own words, go.
And will put the Department of Justice of the United States back in the business of justice. We will double the Civil Rights Division and direct law enforcement to counter this extremism. We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms, because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy. And if you profit off of hate, If you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
Guys, you got to understand. I mean, I'm trying to write everything insane that she's saying there as the clip's playing. It's like, these are the people that push the misinformation. Kamala Harris, I think the tweet is still up, that when Jussie Smollett, got lynched, she said it was, that it was legit and that this proves systemic racism and all this stuff. These are the people that pushed all the COVID lies. These are the people that pushed the Brett Kavanaugh lies. These are the people that push all of the big lies. But when they have power, what she's really saying, like the uncoded version of what she's saying is, if we have enough power, we will make sure that people we don't like can't speak. And we will go ahead and we will try to bust up these companies and we will jail the people that were allowing people to speak. And again, that's exactly what has brought a guy like Naval from that first clip we showed you around and saying, I can't support this. And if you want more evidence that what they want, because what they want is in effect, it is state-run media, and that might be a little bit of that F word, that fascism thing, right? Private corporations working with the government in conjunction against you, but that is what they want. So I only need to go about 3,000 miles away from here, from the place that I fled, California, and listen to what California Democrats are doing. This is from Town Hall. California Democrats have orchestrated a deal requiring Google and California taxpayers to shell out hundreds of millions of dollars to state-approved news organizations. Earlier this year, California Assembly considered the California Journalism Preservation Act, a bill that would force platforms with news links to pay newsrooms for linking to their content. The CJPA, modeled on a similar link tax law in Canada and Australia, amounts to a government-ordered cash transfer from platforms to left-wing government-backed newsrooms. What happened to an independent press? Instead of passing CJPA, California Democrats struck a deal with Google that requires the company to send more than $100 million to state-backed newsrooms over the next 5 years and tens of millions more to launch an artificial intelligence accelerator. California taxpayers have the pleasure of forking over $70 million, leading to as much as $250 million earmarked for failing news organizations and journalists by 2030. So in essence, guys, what's happening here is California Democrats want to make sure that the people of California foot the bill for the places of, quote, journalism that will just lie to them. But it'll be lying in the direction of the Democrats, which is what they think truth is. So that is what they want. They want to control the information you get. There is a reason they are always going after Elon Musk. There's a reason. Isn't it funny? Why isn't it that they're not going after Mark Zuckerberg as hard, right? You think you see why? I think you know why. But of course, once they take your free speech, the thing that comes in conjunction with that is they want to take away your ability to defend yourself. Here is Senator Raphael Warnock, Democrat, radical, progressive, leftist Democrat, now an advocate, campaign surrogate for Kamala Harris, basically saying, yeah, we're coming for the guns.
Should she also be, in your opinion, supporting a mandatory gun buyback program?
Listen, we're not going to be able to get where we need to go without action in Congress. We've got to pass some laws to deal with this.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Mandatory buyback. Generally, when things are sold and purchased, it's voluntary, right? But mandatory buyback. You got to love the language on that one. As I mentioned last week on the show, there are about 400 million firearms in the United States right now. We have about 350 million people, so there are more firearms than people. Let's say they passed those laws and did their mandatory buyback, right? Let's say they did all that and they got rid of 200 million firearms. A, do you think we'd be safer? And B, do you think they would stop there? And the answer to both those questions is obviously no. Here's Elon Musk on that, which just to further prove that there's a reason they don't like this guy. He saw that clip and he wrote, "The right to bear arms is there to protect free speech and stop a tyrannical government from taking your rights away. That's why the first thing that all tyrants do is disarm the people, just like Chavez did when he was first elected. After that, no more re-elections in Venezuela." And guys, we just know this is true. So this is a great clip. It's a slight non sequitur because it's not about guns specifically, but just if you want to get into the psychology of the people that end up running the federal government. Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, who just has a way with words. Here he is talking about the people of D.C. and what they might do to you one day.
You see the worst in people, I know many people in Washington, D.C. that they would unplug your life support to charge their cell phone.
I just love the guy. It's just a great line. And what he's basically saying there, they'll unplug your life support to charge their cell phone, is these people don't really care about you. The Democrats have done something really twisted by making it seem that they constantly care about you. They constantly care about the everyman, right? They are empathetic, and the conservatives are cold and evil. And it's not only just reverse, it's also so perverse in how they do it. So they are attempting to prevent law enforcement from preventing you. Well, there's a couple things they're doing here. They first are trying to stop you from speaking. They are trying to stop you from defending yourself. And also they are trying to mess with elections, which is what they always accuse us of. We'll get to that in a second. Let me tell you about Fume. Guys, we all have bad habits, and then you're out with friends, and they're all reaching for their bad habits. And you feel the urge not to be left out and asked to borrow one of theirs. Well, what if there was a better way? And let me tell you about an alternative that helps you kick your bad habit in an enjoyable way, something you can take with you. I'm talking about Fume. Fume draws flavor to your mouth and fills the void ditching a bad habit could leave. It's not a vape, it has no vapor, it's non-toxic and non-addictive. You also won't ever have to charge it. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use my code Rubin and get a free gift with your Journey pack. Head over to TryFume, that's TRYFUM.com, and use code Rubin to get a free gift with your order today. And now back to me. Okay, so the other thing that the left is doing right now, so they want to kind of silence you. I think we've illustrated that. They want to use lawfare against you. I think we've illustrated that. They want to take the guns. I think we've illustrated that. Is that they also want to import all of these people. They don't want anyone to have IDs when they're voting. And they also want you to think that you're the bad guy if you ask any questions about that. So here's this sane guy again. I didn't even know who this guy was a couple of weeks ago. Here's this sane guy that for whatever reason they're letting on CNN. I think it's to give the air of relative sanity there. Scott Jennings. And here he is mocking Brian Stelter as they talk about voter fraud in the police.
The sentiment of what he was saying, that they need to keep an eye out for voter fraud and that people are intimidated by them.
Is that what we really want the police to be doing?
Watching for people who are committing crimes? I mean, I don't know, maybe. I mean, they have some role to play in that, I guess, but.
It's just so great they brought Stelter back. It is so perfect. They fire him for being an unreliable source. They send him to Harvard, Mosstown, to teach journalism for 2 years, and now they bring him back right before the election. I just want to once again thank all of the executives at CNN for handing me that gift. It really is a beautiful thing, and I owe you, and I thank you, and I love you. Stelter, is that really what we want doing? Having police officers around polling stations to see if anyone's doing anything illegal? How about yes? How about yes? How about we actually tighten up the laws around voting, not to discourage people to vote, but to give more people faith that your vote actually matters. How about we do it like we do it here in Florida with paper ballots and people who you walk to, who check your ID and then see as you take your paper ballot and put it in the ballot box and and then they are able to count the votes immediately. But they want you to be, it's so interesting what they're doing. It's so twisted because they want you to not believe in any part of the system as they want you to actually bow to everything they're trying to turn the system into. Stelter, I wouldn't want anyone at the ballot box making sure anything's legal. It's just so insane. So now let's connect that to something else extremely interesting that's happening as it pertains to the election. This is from the Real Mac Report. Breaking: Robert Kennedy Jr. is now urging his supporters in every state to vote for President Trump, he wrote in a fundraising email. Now, that shouldn't surprise you in light of the news of the last couple of weeks where RFK has basically said he has said he is supporting Trump, and now it's official. He wants his people. And by the way, he was polling somewhere around 12 to 15%. That is a huge, huge number, knowing that these elections come down to 1-2%. He is now telling his people, please vote for Donald Trump. He's not saying I love the guy. He's not saying I'll bow to the guy, but the things that he cares about as it relates to free speech and getting rid of this unaccountable deep state and everything else are obviously more in line with Donald Trump. So now let's jump over to CNN, because CNN is seriously pissed. And all the Democrats right now are really pissed at RFK. If this was 30 years ago, they would all love him because he'd be moderate and decent and with the Kennedy name. But because they've become so radical, they have to hate RFK. So right now, it's really, this one is nuts. There's a woman, her name is Ashley Allison. I guess she's an analyst on CNN. And she thinks that by RFK Jr. being removed from the ballots, a man who is not running anymore, that's going to disenfranchise voters.
Be the big question for the Trump campaign.
I find it ironic.
No, it does matter.
In 2020, Republicans were screaming at the top of their lungs when people were changing rules because we were in a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic and we needed to do it to accommodate voters. And now, on the day when voters should actually be able to start to vote, it's Republicans actually preventing people to do. We are now in a system. I want to remove the politics from this and actually talk about people be able to exercise the franchise. And it is disenfranchising North Carolina voters right now that they believe they could start voting today and they are not. And that is how confusion is disseminated in communities. That is how mis and disinformation starts. That is how you start to see narratives that our system is not working when you let politics play into the role of when people should be able to start voting. Follow the rules. He was on the ballot. He wanted to run. He decided he doesn't want to run. Then he should have made a better decision 6 months ago. But disenfranchising voters right now is not right.
It's amazing. Does he not have the right to remove his name from the ballot?
Not if he missed the deadline. He may not have. Be an adult.
Because I think Democrats want him on the ballot because the recognition is that most of his voters fit the category of Trump voters.
We actually didn't want RFK on the ballot. But he fought and did what he needed to do to get on the ballot. And then he did some quid pro quo with Donald Trump to get a cabinet slot or whatever. And now he wants off the ballot. Well, tough luck, guy. If you want it, almost threw a flag. Wait, no. Tough luck, bruh. If you wanted to be the leader of the free world, make better decisions. Don't wait till the last minute when people are actually starting to vote and then try and file an injunction 4 days before.
I cannot believe anyone watches that drill. And yet I'm someone, and I just covered it, and now I'm going to talk about it. It really does make you wonder. She's like, I'm not going to be political about this. And she's a Democrat operative, right? Why doesn't she want RFK on the ballot, right? Or why does she want, look, here's what's happening here. Let me just back up because it was a little confusing. What's happening right now is that North Carolina right now is having early voting. They are delaying it because they're trying to decide what to do with RFK on the ballot because he's not running anymore, right? So he wants his name off the ballot. She doesn't want his name off the ballot, right? Because they think that somehow that'll work to their advantage. Also, to compare what's going on with RFK trying to get off the ballot when he's not even running versus what was happening during COVID is completely, absolutely insane. So when I show you these clips, more and more people are waking up to this. They're just looking at people like that and being like, you're just an operative. You're not telling us the truth. And you know where you can find the truth? You can find the truth with regular, ordinary Americans, people who are just waking up and they're looking around and they're going, boy, interest rates are crazy high. I have less money in my savings. The price of a dozen eggs is high. Why are we letting on all these illegals? Oh, there's some guy hunched over doing fentanyl outside the bank. Like, people are just waking up to what is obvious. And here is an unbelievable video. This woman should be the head of the Republican Party at this point. It's just a random woman, just a citizen of Chicago going off on the Democrat leaders over there. And it's just absolutely beautiful.
Like in the words of Malcolm X, who told us what? That the white liberal is the worst enemy to the black man.
Yes.
And it is coming up in here acting like y'all representing some social justice.
Say that,
but all along, all
that.
you're doing is trying to use black people to find a reason to make some money. Let me tell y'all something over there. We're done. The Democratic Party is done.
Abuse the black American.
Gonna come in here and gonna clean it up. Do just like R.A. Jr. Just do like that Tulsa lady. You better get up out the Democratic Party. Save yourself. Because if y'all don't, we coming for your seats. We ain't taking no disrespect from a bunch of people who have broke into the country and now have completely broke the city, have completely disgraced the United States of America. America is a disgrace. The number one function of a president is to be the commander-in-chief. You tell me anything about a Kamala Harris. that look like she can protect this country after y'all have sat up here and let it get overridden with a bunch of illegals. Y'all have sat up here and put America's hands in all kind of wars. And you telling me a TACON man that ran from duty, Kamala Harris, who don't know what race she is, gonna protect this country? The devil is a lie.
That woman is incredible. Get me her name. I am sending her something. I don't know. We can send her dinners. Like, it's just so, the best part is when she turns to you people, and you people over there, and then it's like 4 white people. They're like, I'm not so white. Don't worry about me. But that is the point. I have known nothing about that woman's politics, right? But what I do know is she is someone who is waking up to the lunacy that somehow the Democrat Party has convinced black people you have to vote for us or what? Right? And then what happens in places like Chicago that has had, what is it? It's almost 80 years of Democrat mayors in Chicago. When was the last time there was a Republican? It's something like 80 years, right? And Illinois is a blue state. So, and what has happened? You can also tell me how many people got shot in Chicago this weekend. It is black people shooting black people, and they have all the gun laws. So you guys get all that. So here is the average woman, and she's saying, and now you've let all these people into our city. For 80 years, Chicago has been run by Democrats since 1944. Well, the fruits of that labor are now out there because it's and how many people were shot this weekend? Because it is a sanctuary city where people are getting shot left and right. I think we're getting numbers on the shooting right now. Do we have them? Do we have them? They're coming. They're incoming. So that is what this is all about. The average person is waking up. And then the best part of that, of course, is that for the last 2 years, I've been screaming about this wide tent thing. And if we could only get RFK and Tulsi on the same side as Trump and all that. And the woman is literally screaming that too. Only 22 people were shot this weekend in Chicago. That's very exciting. Only 3 killed. So great weekend in Chicago. Let's jump over to Ohio because there is something bananas happening in Springfield, Ohio over the last couple of days. So they have let in all of these Haitian migrants. And in a moment, we'll get to how they got here and everything else. Well, these Haitian migrants, and it's weird, if you bring in people from other places in the world and you don't ask them what their customs and traditions are and everything else and their behaviors, etc., they might import some stuff that really isn't in line with, say, American values. Now, that's not to say all Haitians or any group acts the same way. Of course it isn't. But they imported about 20,000 Haitian migrants. And in Springfield, Ohio, they're having a problem because the migrants are fetching all of the ducks and the geese and killing them and eating them. So, Joy, this video?
I think it's like kind of odd that like a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun because I see what's going on in these streets and I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits and I'm getting out here every day and I'm broadcasting this and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. Like I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into, they flipping cars in the middle of the street. I don't know how, like, y'all can be comfortable with this. Like, I don't know, like, who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to, seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants because it's the people that's bringing them down here because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them
It's so interesting how good most Americans are. You see there at the end where he goes out of his way to say, I'm not anti-immigrant. Like, he didn't have to say that, but most Americans actually are good and are not anti-immigrant. But you don't want your city overrun with people who then are flipping over cars and stealing stuff from gas stations and bringing drugs in. Oh, and beheading ducks at the park. We go to the local park here with the kids. Like if there was somebody beheading a duck, you probably don't go back to that park. But it's not just that they're beheading ducks, they're eating cats. So let's just play a video of someone. Well, I think we have an image first, right? We have an image? Mistaken? Yeah. This is from Springfield, Ohio Crime Watch. Warning to all about our beloved pets and those around us. My neighbor informed me that her daughter's friend had lost her cat. She checked pages, kennels, asked around, etc. One day she came home from work, and as soon as she stepped out of her car, looked towards a neighbor's house where Haitians live, and saw her cat hanging from a branch like you'd see a deer for butchering, and they were carving it up to eat. I've been told they are doing this to dogs. They have been doing it at Snyder Park with the ducks and geese, and I was told that last bit by rangers and police. Please keep a close eye on these animals. Here's a picture of a Haitian man in Springfield with a goose, and I suspect he's not going to do something very pleasant with that goose. And yes, there is a bit more. It is all true about that cat, the stringing the cat up and eating the cat. Here's some video on that.
What did you do? Why'd you kill the cat? Smile for me. Smile with your teeth. Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it? Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with it.
Did you see her eating it?
Eating it.
She was eating it?
Yeah, she was.
You call the Humane Society, see if they'll come pick this cat up. It's deceased.
I want to talk about eating pussy for just a second. Not my thing, but you can't eat your neighbor's pussy without asking them first, at the very least, right? Like, even if you love eating pussy, you think it's the most delicious, succulent. You can't just eat someone else's pussy. You're going to get in trouble. I don't care what the customs are back home. You got to ask. So what the hell's going on over there in Ohio right now? Well, in 2022, Kamala Harris went on The View to explain that they let 100,000 Haitians get up in there.
That is why, also, starting with our administration, we gave TPS, temporary protected status, to Haitian migrants, 55,000. And then more recently, we extended temporary protected status to over 100,000 Haitian migrants for that very reason, that they need support, they need protection.
Oh, they need support, they need protection. How about the people that live there that are legal citizens that are now like that guy with the red sweatshirt who's just like, I'm not anti-immigrant, but there's crime and the eating of the pussy and all the other stuff. There's some problems here. So just know, it's like the Democrats did this. This is not the Republicans that did this. So if you want to be able to go to the park in your neighborhood, like everyone for a moment, just picture your park in your neighborhood or the park that you grew up in, going to or whatever, where the local pool was or the play gym for the kids or whatever. And if you want to see someone eating pussy and someone else beheading a goose, then vote for Democrats. But if that's a bit much for you, you probably shouldn't vote for these people. But what else do they want to do? The other thing that they want to do is they want to keep people in the cycle of thinking that they are the good guys and that the Republicans are the bad guys. So check out this video from AOC. Man, she did not pop in my head once in all of August, and that is a gift from God, truly. Here she is, and what does she want to do when she's not worrying about the environment or when she's not worrying that the earth is going to collapse, which I think it was 6 years ago. She said we had 12 years to go, so we got about 6 years left. When she's not worried about all that stuff, she always wants some people's money to give to other people to keep them locked in state education. You might think that could be just to keep a whole certain set of people stupid. Go.
Tax the rich. Maybe we can tax the rich so that people who have helipads on their house or near their house can help chip in for black school districts that are perpetually underfunded. How about we do that? But apparently, if you believe in that, you are radical, far left, danger to this country. Both parties will disassociate with you.
Yes. Well, it's not exactly that you're a radical, far left, danger to the country. It's just that you're an idiot. You actually, AOC, and I'm talking directly to you, everyone else could stop watching for a minute. AOC, you are an idiot. You have the political acumen of a 7-year-old, of a retard, basically. You think that, if you just had the power, if we could take the helipad away from that guy and we could just dump some money into that thing, that'll fix everything. But it is the most thin, version of anything. It is the most simplistic version of anything to think that just dumping money on something fixes it. That's why all of your government programs don't work, because they're all basically slush funds to keep a certain set of people in power. And ironically, it's your people. You vote against school choice, right? Well, we'll do more on that here. Here we go. This is a tweet from Insurrection Barbie. And she's retweeting the video, and she wrote, "Look at this communist scream about taxing the rich to pay for better schools for poor black kids as she opposes school choice and school vouchers for minority communities." Right. And why is that? Right? Like, if you really care about kids, and let's say there are areas that are largely skin color based that have worse schools, what you would want is school choice, so that just because you live next to that public school, you don't have to go there. You might want vouchers, so your parents could be like, okay, we're getting instead of just having to send you to the failing school, we're gonna give you a voucher, and then you can decide, I'm gonna go to this private school, or I'm gonna go to a school that's in a different district. You want as much choice in the system. But what do they hate more than anything? It's ironic. They call themselves pro-choice, and they actually hate choice. That really is what it is all. That's good. Clip that. Do something with that. That's the thing. That's the thing, guys. They hate choice. All she wants is, we have to put more money into state-run things. And then guess what? The state-run things will teach these kids to be obedient slaves to the system. That is where we are best at. Do we have a psychology professor who could explain the psychology of someone like AOC? We do. And does he kind of sound like Kermit the Frog? Tall, thin guy? You got him? Okay, go.
My lab did a study on left-wing authoritarianism. The first thing we did was to see if there was a clump of ideas that were statistically related that you could describe as both left-wing and authoritarian. And there is, and it's identifiable. It's exactly the clump of beliefs you would have been studying and would suspect.
Yeah.
We looked at what predicted that. It predicted allegiance with that set of beliefs. Low verbal intelligence, negative 0.4 with IQ, verbal IQ. So you think, well, how can people be, unwise enough to believe these ideas? And one of the answers is, well, they're not that bright, as it turns out. Being female, having a feminine temperament, right? Those were the three big predictors. Other predictors have emerged looking at the similar construct, left-wing authoritarianism. The best predictor I've seen is malignant narcissism. Yeah. Correlation is 0.6. 0.6, right? Which is about as good as the measurement accuracy of the questionnaires. Yeah. Right. So it actually opens up the question. The question is, there may be no difference between left-wing authoritarianism and malignant narcissism. And what that means is the serpents are using the language of compassion to mask their power strive.
Do you get that, guys? I mean, AOC is such a perfect example of what he is talking about, right? The two things. She's a not bright narcissist, right? Like, she's not particularly bright, and she's a narcissist. It's all about her all the time. And then what that leads to is these people wanting to control everything. That is seriously freaking dangerous. I think we've all seen that when you look at what's gone on in this country and actually all over the world over the last couple of years. And then he said the female temperament in general, and yes, it's not racist or anything else to say that men and women are a little bit different, but it also explains why they like all of their soy boys. Why do guys that are on the left are basically these ineffectual, weak, limp-wristed people? Why do they like that? And they're trying to make it seem sexy, even though it's not. Why do they think that if you have high testosterone and you work out, it's because you're a hardcore right-wing maniac MAGA supporter? Because they don't like people who are actually independent and take care of themselves. But what couches all of this to bring this show together, what couches all of it, is that more and more people are waking up. That was the point, right? So I don't have to go through the list of people that are waking up again. But there's a reason people are waking up. People are waking up because more and more people are talking about these things. And they are finding alternate ways of getting their information outside of CNN and MSNBC and ABC and NBC and everything else. Check out my friend Megyn Kelly. I was so thrilled to see this, and we'll give you a little context for it after as it relates to our show. But listen to Megyn Kelly talking about how her show is exploding and how it's crushing mainstream media.
There are people on that list who would love to have seen me without a job forever. And so I would be lying if I told you something other than I am thrilled that we, our one show, crushed NBC News on its YouTube feed this month. Crushed them. I think there are plenty of people there who would love to have seen yours truly exit the news business altogether, and frankly, who did their level best to make sure I never had a microphone in front of me again. So to all those people, I will say as graciously and with class as I can, f*** off. I'm back. You can't shut me up.
You know what? I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving! The show goes on! This is my home!
All right, that's a little bonus Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort stuff there. But I want to just kind of add on. I want to tack on to something that Megyn said there. So she's talking about her July numbers. So we dove into some numbers here. Megyn Kelly crushed it in July. She had 116 million views on YouTube alone. NBC, she had 116. NBC had 78 million. CBS had 83. And to compare that to our numbers, yes, sorry NBC and sorry CBS, we crushed you too. We had 93 million views, just about 93 million views, 92.3 is the exact number. NBC had 78 and CBS had 83. So something, and by the way, I really only promote the Rumble channel and locals and everything else. And that doesn't include audio and all of the stuff. So that is why they come after us. That is why they hate us. Remember years ago when everyone was calling Joe Rogan racist and trying to get him kicked off Spotify? It wasn't because Brian Stelter thought he was racist. It's because he thought he was competition. And he damn well was right. So again, the takeaway of all of this is we're fighting narcissists who aren't particularly bright, and a whole bunch of us are waking up, and that is a good way to start the week. I should note, guys, that tomorrow is the big debate. We will be doing a live post-game show. I'll have some more information on that tomorrow, but we will be live in studio after that. I think that should be tequila related. What do you think? There's only one way to watch these freaking things. We have a whole bunch of new merch, including our new mug with our new logo and all that. It's up at daverubin.store right now. We've got a post-game show coming up in 30 seconds. RubinReport.locals.com. All right. Oh, this outro today. Today's cold close is spec-freaking-tacular. Enjoy.
So you know how those lids are, because this is, well, I'm just going to speak, okay? So this is it. So you know how those lids on those Starbucks cups, they're white, right? And so if you wear lipstick, they get all over the lid. And so then I find myself in meetings if I'm the only woman, and that's kind of, and so I keep taking the lid off and having my cup out so that I don't have that big lipstick mark on the lid. So I said, can we do something about the color of the lid? So that was that conversation.